no half lie. There's only a full lie or the truth. And right here in SJU, we go for the truth. Dan Murrell.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Great. Good morning. Happy Monday. I'm Roth, Cornet.
Yeah.
Spencer Gilbert.
Hi.
Hi. Joe Starr.
Good morning.
We're talking about that thing where you go see some work of your friends and then you have to respond. And this is what you do. That was great. And that's what you do in our comments right now. Mm-hmm. We have a lot to talk about today.
I ran into Clint Eastwood over the weekend. Yes, we have the mule was.
Yes.
Not racist at all.
Oh, my God. We've just been talking about the mule. We may circle back to that just because Dan's interpretation of the mule is pretty amazing.
Yeah, Dan's retelling of the mule might win Best Picture.
We'll put it towards the end of the show in case you don't want any muling around spoilers.
Here's the thing.
His words.
Clint Eastwood says things in the mule that if I were to repeat them here and telling what he said, I would get in more trouble than he does for actually saying them in the movie.
We should probably keep that in mind.
Where's the line? Where does Clint Eastwood end and the mule begin?
It's hard to say.
In the empty chair.
Yeah.
That's a really good point, and we'll have to consider that when we do mule talk coming up shortly at the end of the show. Again, we don't want to spoil anybody if you're just rearing for the mule and the after credit sequence that is inevitable. Okay, Netflix.
Yeah.
Guess what?
Oh.
According to a study in Variety, it's not killing movie theaters as we would have anticipated. A lot of the talk around streaming services and studios doubling and tripling and quadrupling down around streaming services has been what will and is the impact on theaters. As we've talked a lot about on charting, this has been a banner year, actually, for theaters, making a lot of money, crossing records over $1 billion by November domestically.
We have, I believe, at this point, passed last year's total without the holiday season,
Before Christmas.
which is
Before
a
Christmas.
huge
Solid
chunk of the
Q3.
month.
Edging towards, hey, this is money talk. This is the kind of Q3 money talk I like.
Yeah.
We're edging towards a record-breaking year. You two just play amongst yourselves while we talk about the numbers thing. All right, tune back in.
We'll just pepper you with comments while you talk business. Go ahead.
EY's, that's our life together, Spencer. EY's
quantitative economics, or quantitative economics here.
And statistics group finds that people who go to the movie theater more frequently also consume more streaming. Anecdotally, I can say that is absolutely true of this one. So this flies in the face of conventional wisdom, aka what people have just been presuming about the impact of streaming on theaters, the same way that was presumed around television and the movies. And obviously Hollywood always counters with, well, what can we do in a movie theater that you just can't get at home? So the study saw that people who saw 9 or more movies in the cinema averaged 11 hours of weekly streaming compared to the 7 hours of streaming reported by the average, those who saw 2 movies at the multiplexes. And this is still well above average. Average used to be, and I don't know what it is, the average person goes to see about 1 movie a year. Now, let's break that down. That doesn't mean that everyone sees 1 movie a year. It means that there's a segment of the population that sees many, many movies a week. And then there's a segment that sees a regular amount and those who very rarely
What's
go.
the median? What's the mode?
We're not. I only go so far with math as I go with math. God
Spencer,
damn it,
we need the full
Gilbert.
data set.
We need a full data
to
set.
calculate both of those things.
Now, here's something I do want to caveat. So searchers surveyed 2,500 respondents in November, 80% of whom saw at least 1 movie in theaters over the past year. Here's where I really want to caveat this study. It was commissioned by the National Association of Theater Owners, NATO, a lobbying group for the exhibition industry that has been outspoken in its critique of Netflix's decision to forgo theatrical releases for movies like Roma
And the trade of furs from Canada
and Outlaw
to
King.
Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. So here we go.
Wait, who had the name first?
That's not
NATO had it first, I think.
Which NATO?
Oh, you're
The
talking
theater
about
owners, I believe,
theater
had it.
owners,
So
I
we
think.
gotta
Okay.
keep Europe
Yeah,
safe
yeah.
against Russia, NATO.
They're definitely going to have to do
Maybe not. When was NATO coined?
Billy,
NATO.
the National
Billy.
Who owns
trade.
Why have
The
we
trade
not
is
had a
American?
WWE, WWF situation here?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just, I'll come back to me. This is the dumbest shit, but I'll figure
Billy,
it out.
I do this
This
every
isn't
week for
dumb.
2 hours on movie fights. You can do it for 10 minutes here.
Tom, this is,
Give me a
It's one
second here.
Google.
you
Give me a
know,
sec. Well, let's see. The North Atlantic Treaty was signed in 1949.
So you
if
have to assume,
if I had to guess, I would say
that came
NATO.
first.
NATO was first.
Yeah.
And then dumb NATO was second.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Depending on your perspective, I don't think that either of them is necessarily dumb, but one's more consequential, certainly, to the world at large.
A little bit.
So here's a couple of other sort of pullouts. Nearly half of the people who said they didn't visit a movie theater in the last 12 months also didn't stream any online content. Are you really texting? It's forget it.
No, I was looking at NATO.
Anymore.
I was looking at NATO information.
Guys, I may actually be wrong. Like, dumb NATO may go all the way back. Its roots may go all the way back to 1921.
Oh.
That's
awesome. So dumb NATO
Snap.
came first.
And then Sharknado was afterwards. Yes.
Real NATO is 49.
You guys, this
That's dangerous.
is either a time capsule show or
It's Monday. It's the week before we go on vacation.
That's true.
Let's talk about how if Russia invades Crimea and they call the wrong NATO, will they send all the popcorn boys over to fight?
Did you say popcorn boys?
I don't know. Hey, we're the popcorn boys.
The popcorn boys are coming.
It's just not even funny because Russia did invade Crimea.
What's
I'm
that?
clearly up to date on geopolitics.
Crimea's been invaded. Send all the red vines they can eat.
Damn you, Netflix! Sorry, Roth. Where were we?
I don't care.
Here's what
anymore.
you don't see at home. We have pre-taped approximately 74 SJUs in the past 2 weeks.
Oh, and they make
We are
increasingly
so-
less sense.
Yeah.
We are so punchy.
We've lived more of our lives on SJU than off at this point. So
And-
you can be entertained over
I
your
live my life a
holidays.
quarter of an SJU at a time.
And you guys should be prepared because, there's some real nonsense in
something
there.
coming up
there
you
is
don't
some
even know.
golden levels nonsense. Okay.
Can we talk about the fact that this lobbying group that's very outspoken of Netflix and probably blames Netflix for anything commissioned a study that was like, chill on your Netflix take.
Yeah,
Netflix is
no.
fine.
That's what I wanted to pull out is like with a caveat around anything that we take away from this is that it was commissioned by a group that's heavily motivated to prove that streaming and theatrical releases do not impact one another, to continue to pressure the studios and the creators of these movies to release them in theaters and not just find a streaming only or concurrent streaming model, and also to encourage Netflix to release their big movies in theaters as well. So yeah, we have to heavily caveat that. It's sort of like the same way, well, I was going to bring up a thing that I probably won't bring up. Like if you were, say, I don't know, a oil company and you commissioned a study about the impact of that on the environment, we'd probably have to, super
Well, I was
hot.
going to do a
Just like coal hot.
it's not really a one-to-one comparison, but it's kind of like, pre-Napster, I had like a couple singles.
Sure.
I had Weird Al Yankovic, I had Bad Religion, and I had what's that? God, I can't remember the R&B song, but I had, it was like
But you loved it.
not Regulators by Warren G. It'll come back. Oh, No Diggity. I had No Diggity on cassette.
Oh.
You like the way they worked it.
I did.
Yeah.
How could you forget Blackstreet?
Clean
Yeah.
version. So I had that, and then Napster comes along, and it's like, oh, you can get any song ever made at any time. And I started listening to so much more music and buying more music too. Like I started, I did. I downloaded more music, but I also started buying more. I know this isn't a one-to-one comparison, but it's like Netflix has exposed people to so many more films that it can hook people on cinema.
I also think there might come a point, I know there does for me, where it's like, man, I've just been watching so much on streaming, I should probably leave the house. And for some reason, it occurs to me to leave the house by going to a theater.
Yeah,
and
sure. I'm going to leave this
watching
smaller dark room and go to this
more
larger dark room.
things.
Yeah.
What's your take? I think it's just like people that watch a lot of movies watch a lot of movies.
Right. This seems to be the answer to the question that's not actually the question, because it's not surprising to me that if you watch more movies, then you watch more Netflix, because that means that you watch more things. That seems kind of like common sense. For me, the question that they haven't answered, because they don't really have any concrete evidence right now, and that's actually the pressing question, is right now Netflix, as far as their programming itself, is not in direct competition with films, in the sense that, like, what filmmakers are doing now is, do I put this in theaters or do I put this on Netflix or Hulu?
I don't think it's the filmmakers
or
at all.
Amazon
It's
or the
people
studios.
paying for it, yeah.
So this is sort of like, I think that's the big question that's happening right now, and this study doesn't answer that question. It's just like, well, yeah, if you watch a lot of movies, you watch a lot of Netflix, because you watch a lot of stuff. What they have to figure out is, does putting a movie on Netflix, if more people do that, how will that affect the box office? Because, you know, if Netflix turns out to be a wildly successful way to distribute films, and studios, instead of releasing 12 major films a year, release 9 major films a year in theaters, that's where you see the impact.
Yeah.
Is the fewer films that go into theatrical release, the less money that the theater owners see. So, I mean, I guess I get why they did this study. I don't actually get why they did this study, because it seems like a pretty intuitive answer to me.
Well, a lot of things are intuitive answers, and yet we have scientific studies on them
No, that's true.
That's one of the thand I remember, just real quick. You guys took Psychology 101 in college, right?
I was there.
Yeah. Well, I would always blow my mind how they would do an entire kind of nasty study, like removing animals from their parents and any caregiver and isolating them to be like, oh, it turns out you need physical comfort. It's like, fuck you. Of course. Sorry, but it deserves. I earned that. That deserves an FU. That deserves an FU. It's so unnecessarily mean. Like, of course you do. My point is this. Sometimes obvious things, we need to prove them for whatever reason. This does seem intuitive. I would be interested to see, what are people streaming versus going to movies for? That's, you know what I mean?
Right.
What will get you? And we know that anecdotally just by what performs at the box office.
And I would be curious to see if they asked the question, how many times in the last year have you waited for something to be on Netflix instead of seeing it in the theater? How many times in the last year have you stayed home to watch something on Netflix instead of going out? Like, that's the question that needs to be answered.
Yeah.
It's I haven't read the whole study. Maybe they asked those questions, but those would be the answers that I want to know. It's not this. I mean, the overall study feels like something they would have done back in 1967. It's just like, the average person who watches 3 hours of television a week goes to 2 movies in the theaters, so Hollywood is saved. Like, it's the same study. So what I want to know is, like, what?
I so wish we could pull something like that up from whatever
Yeah.
television archives.
What NATO should be asking is how much money is being siphoned away from them by Netflix.
Yeah.
That's what I would like to know.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Anecdotally, it's true with me and Roma and Annihilation this year, where it's like, oh, these are coming to Netflix. You know, yeah, I could go out, but I'll see something else in theaters just because I know it's headed to the small screen.
I will also
That's
caveat.
been
Shame bell and
That's
everything.
been bumming us out.
Such a shame.
Spencer Gilbert. Annihilation really needed to be seen on the big screen. So does Roma. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway.
I got emotional watching the trailer and then didn't watch the movie because I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for that tonight. I will also caveat this by, as a retired semi-professional focus group person myself.
Oh.
Wait, did you do focus groups?
I mean, I used to take like a crap load of focus groups.
I moderated
Daddy
them.
wanted that money.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You were behind the glass.
Right on.
Too.
Well, you were in front of the glass.
Yeah, and I was the one trying to trick you into thinking that I was okay for that focus group, even though I'd probably done like 8
I
that
knew.
week.
You
knew.
Yeah, I
an
But
knew.
I will
Inarritu
say at
movie
least
in here right
70% of this 80% answered all of these questions in a way that they felt instinctually would get them that $75 and not disqualify them for the study. So anytime you see one
might
of
be
these
projecting.
no, I'm not. I saw the same people week after week.
You again.
This industry's a sham.
Okay.
It's true. That industry focus groups
group?
is
Okay.
absolutely, there's professional focus. Like you have kind of, all right, focus groups. You kind of have the people that run them. If you guys don't know what a focus group is, it's this. A company or a brand or an advertising company commissions basically, or even sometimes lawyers, it happens for court cases too, or doctors, which is the scariest part. You basically commission people to give their opinion about a thing, whether it's the product or a movie or a court case or whatever it is. And there are people that know that they can make $75 to $100 just coming in for 45 minutes,
yeah.
eating a dumb sandwich and a cheese platter I made and make $75. And so they try to do it again and again and again because they're actors. That said, there are
broke comic,
some,
man.
there are some
gotta
like, some sort of safety guards in place to make sure you're not getting a professional Joe, but a lot of Joes slip through. Yeah.
It's called several email addresses.
Nice.
I got paid $75. Remember that movie where Chris Pine and Denzel Washington were on a train that couldn't stop?
Yeah.
Nonstop.
That's the one.
Unstoppable?
Wait.
Unstoppable. That's what it was called.
Nonstop is the
I believe
Liam
it was called
Neeson
The
on a
Train
plane
That Could Not
movie.
Slow Down.
Yeah, I got
That's
paid $75 to tell someone if I liked that trailer.
Yeah.
Nice.
That might have been my first Screen Junkies gig.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's good
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
Focus groups.
Extra 20 because I showed up early.
I credit myself with getting Jesse Eisenberg cut out of that movie where he had the bomb vest. on.
Oh, 30 minutes or
30
less.
minutes or
30 minutes
Oh,
or
because
less.
that was
I
your
saw an early
feedback?
screening. I was like, "Get this guy out of the movie!" I don't know. He just rubbed me the wrong way. And when I saw the final cut, he was in it much less.
Wait, wasn't he the star of the movie?
Yes.
Wow. You wield some real power. Spencer. I had no
It
idea.
was a strongly worded comment card. I'm the first call you make in Hollywood if you need someone, if you need an opinion on your early cut of a film. I can. Well, the movie tanked, so I guess I made the wrong call.
No,
Sorry,
I
Jesse.
think you probably made the right call. The movie was just going to tank anyway. So our takeaway from this last foray
After
into
God and your spouse. Spencer J. Gilbert.
Yeah.
I don't have a takeaway. Dan, give us a takeaway. I'm so lost in thinking about our day jobs over
Yes.
the years.
The takeaway being they can twist these numbers however they want. As
Twist
can
it.
anybody, and have it say whatever they want to say, but it's not the answers that I wanted. Not the answers that I wanted. And I commissioned this study personally, so I'm very disappointed.
So I think that what
Dan
now
Murrell,
I do
head of
have a
NATO.
takeaway is that dumb NATO remains dumb. Okay, so yeah, movies. People who like movies. Here we go. Oh, and they also like the Great British Bake Off because I got to tell you, I was watching that in between screeners this week. It was just a delightful palate cleanser because all of the Oscar movies are depressing.
Yep.
That
is tradition.
said, as is tradition, Cold War is amazing.
Okay.
And I highly recommend it. Apple has acquired the Peanuts gang, speaking of streaming, and another player that's coming in. This is via THR. So apparently it was a big bidding war over Peanuts, and not surprisingly, the one with the most money, that is Apple, won. They completed a deal with DHX Media to create a series, specials and shorts, featuring the Peanuts, Charlie Brown, Snoopy, the rest of the gang. Who's your favorite?
Oh, gosh. Out of the Peanuts kids.
Charlie. I'm a
Patty?
brown man. Yeah. Don't take that out of context, please.
I'm taking it entirely out of context.
Here's something you might not know about me. I love Snoopy.
I love Snoopy too. Snoopy's my
love
favorite.
Snoopy. Mara and I spent a lovely day, excuse me, at Knott's Berry Farm yesterday. True story. Partially because they have a deal with the Peanuts gang, and Snoopy was there, and I was like, I want to go see Snoopy.
Yeah.
So we went to Knott's Berry Farm.
I really like this story a
Yeah,
lot.
I'm a big fan of Snoopy.
Snoopy's
Yeah.
my fave.
I bought a Snoopy yesterday.
Nice.
He's got a Knott's Berry Farm hat on. It's put him next to the tree.
Well, you show your wisdom once again, Dan, because Snoopy is like objectively the best peanut.
Remember,
He's the coolest. He's the one that's on top of everything. He's guiding
remember
everybody.
in the 90s
He's
when
the
he always had
Fonz of the
sunglasses on?
Peanuts.
Yeah, he's the Fonz. He's not a character. He's an ideal.
Get out of here with that.
Charlie Brown's relatable.
That was-
Life is pain, Roth.
He's the Fonz who is also a dog.
Yeah.
I had mostly Snoopy things growing up because remember he'd wear sunglasses and it would say Joe,
Joe
Cool,
Cool.
and that's what all of my aunts and uncles
Yeah.
and cousins would
That
buy
makes
me
sense.
was Joe Cool.
I'm
That's
pretty
cute.
sure I have a picture of me as like a 5-year-old in a Snoopy t-shirt with
Heck yeah.
sunglasses
and
that
he's
says
like
Joe
this.
But Snoopy also teaches us a lot about kind of being friends with other species and crossing the lines and communicating. I mean, Snoopy has a lot of wisdom. Okay, here we go. All this to say is that Apple is clearly going to make a big play in 2019. It feels like they're gearing up, and this is just another move. They're making an interesting series of moves around what they're doing on streaming. None of them seem particularly cohesive at this point. They've got the Jennifer Aniston series, which is a big swing. They've got Peanuts, and then I believe they have a partnership with A24, which seems like an odd mix.
Yeah.
I want them to produce the Peanuts content.
A24?
Yeah.
No.
No, I don't want that. I love A24 and I love Peanuts, but they don't go together.
They're adapting Asimov's Foundation novels, which I'm pretty excited about.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think this looks like another Silicon Valley company wandering into Hollywood with a T-shirt cannon full of $1 million bills and just firing it in every direction with no strategy, except we want content.
How do I get in the way of that cannon?
You just
Like,
got to
how do
dive
I-
in front.
Yeah, like how do I get just right in front of that cannon?
I don't know.
They're firing Jennifer Aniston guns again. Ah.
What do you think about Apple? Apple's current plan?
I mean, they don't. Their plan is that they have no plan, right? They have partners, but what's their plan? What's their strategy? How are they going to make a difference?
Sell more
part of the
iPads. Sell more
Apparently.
iPads is the
Yeah,
plan,
it's a
and
hardware
the
play.
way to do that is to have exclusive stuff you can only see on an iPad.
I don't think that's going to work at all. First of all, I just want to pause to note something very adorable. One of Dan's notes is simply "I love
I
Snoopy."
just wrote "I love Snoopy." I wrote "I love Snoopy" on my paper here.
He writes that every day. It's weird.
I do. I write it on everything. It's on every surface of my desk. It just says "I love Snoopy."
Okay, back to business. Business.
Yo.
Let's talk about this. I don't think a play and forcing people to buy hardware is going to work at all right now.
It's not forcing.
Yeah, it's forcing.
Okay.
I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah, it's forcing.
That's the one thing is like we kind of know all these plans, at least grand plans of all these other streaming services, but Apple still, we won't know until much later in 2019. Their big barrier to entry is going to be, do you have Apple hardware to play back their stuff? So I don't know. This could be a lot of money spent for a big barrier to entry.
I mean, I'd buy an Apple TV just because, as long as everything else is still on it, like you can still get Netflix and Hulu and Amazon. The problem will be if they see Apple as a threat and they pull their services from Apple somehow.
That would be so dumb.
Yeah, but they're
For
petty.
everyone.
They're super petty, and they're all very
What do you want
competitive.
more, all of Netflix or the ability to watch Snoopy come home whenever you want?
And yeah, that's
I mean, the answer's obviously
it's-
Snoopy.
It's really
I mean, specifically Snoopy come home. That's my favorite of the Peanuts pantheon.
Is that the one where he has the cousin that has the sombrero? No? There's like a Snoopy
that's
cousin.
Slowpoke. That's
Yeah.
Speedy's cousin.
that's the mule.
That's what it
surprised
was.
you're not a Lucy, Joe. If I'm honest.
I like Lucy.
Yeah.
Lucy's
Yeah.
cool.
Who's the one that plays
think she
piano?
never
I get him
charges.
confused with Ralph from
That's
the Muppet
Schro- that's
Babies.
Schroeder.
Schroeder.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's cool.
Yeah. Lucy's
It's a dog.
Yeah, but he also plays piano.
Yeah, but they're also two different species. Like, I don't get my cat and my girlfriend mixed up because one of them's an animal and one of
They
them's
both play piano.
neither of them.
You
They
live
both
them
sit on the
both?
same sofa.
I mean, that's just a weird, like, you know.
They're animated small creatures who both have an affinity for Beethoven and music. So
But specifically Beethoven. That's true.
I know Schroeder does. Yeah. Does Ralph?
Schroeder does. Feels like
Probably
Ralph
has his
would.
own thing.
Ralph
I feel
only
like
likes Dr.
Ralph is-
Teeth songs.
Ralph,
Yeah.
Ralph is like a Mozart guy. I
Okay.
feel like.
You know
He's
what
a
they should get
traditionalist.
is they should buy The Office, Apple. I was remember last week we were talking about their binge
yeah,
thing?
yeah.
I was reading an article that said The Office accounts for the most minutes watched on all of Netflix.
That makes sense.
And it's mostly Billy.
And it's and me and Mara and I have gone through The Office twice.
Yeah, I watch The Office at least 3 times a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I guess it's up like at the end of next year. They gotta
Another $100 million
another
series.
100 or more.
I will say that I think Apple's crazy if they try to force it to just be on Apple TVs. I think they have to make their service available elsewhere if they want to compete, because I'll be too bitter about trying to be forced to do anything. I will never buy an Apple TV if that's.
I mean, you say with your app and the.
Okay, first of all, one thing, this comes with the job. And the second thing is, I don't know, what do you want from me? You want to have a Samsung? What am I, an animal? What do you
No,
want
you
me-
think different, like everybody else.
I hate that campaign. Can we talk about like how I have a very mixed response between fear and attraction about brilliant marketing? Because it's so manipulative. It edges propaganda every single time. Like, you don't think different. None of us do. We think the exact same. First images from the Dark Crystal.
Story number 3.
The first images
You're almost
from
there, Roth.
the Dark Crystal prequel have emerged. Let's
Whoa.
take a look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another world.
Is that a yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a yeah.
That's a yeah.
Are these real?
This is
These
Muppets.
These is Muppets. Oh, I thought that was CGI.
No.
Okay, I'm very impressed then.
These is puppets.
Okay, I rescind my
Can we do the anime meme with the butterfly and it's like, is this a mic? Can we just do a Spencer one that's like, is this puppets?
Is these puppets?
I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I don't, and I need you guys to tell me. But the Dark Crystal, did you love it in the 80s?
Yeah, of course.
The
Yeah.
Jim Henson.
I mean, the
Yeah,
look
great.
of it.
I didn't see it till literally 2 months ago,
Really?
and I didn't get it.
Yeah, it's a
all
very
right.
strange experience, but a beautiful one.
Yeah, it
You didn't
wasn't.
like it?
It wasn't quite my cup of tea. It's a technical marvel, but otherwise, I was not quite.
You weren't
into
there,
it.
you didn't
Yeah,
love
I
it?
wasn't quite there.
I get that. If you don't have the nostalgia on for it, it's a long,
It's a bit of a
very
slog.
slowly paced movie. It's not actually
Yeah.
long, but it feels.
It feels
like
quite long.
it.
It was a two-nighter.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
a two-nighter for us.
I get that.
Do you
That's
love
fair.
it?
I love looking at it.
Well, I love it. This was one of my favorite movies as a kid. I still have a lot of strong feelings about it. I watched it, I think, again a year ago, and I felt like it really held up. I mean, it's just, guys, it's a story of needing to integrate your shadow as a human being. It's a hero's journey, if you will, in the sense of it's basically Luke Skywalker in a cave, but with a really cute animal named Fiskik and Gelflings, and it's basically if you split the two sides of your nature, trying to eliminate the parts of you that are shadow, you disempower both sides of your nature, and you're left with two binary positions rather than a whole that works with far more powerfully once united. That's the story of the break in the crystal.
You are either doing Talking Dark Crystal or shilling for Goop right now. I'm not sure.
What's amazing, Joe?
And with this jade
What's
egg,
amazing, Joe? I'm doing
can
a little
promise
bit of
both.
both. I'm doing a little bit of both.
I really appreciate
I
it.
do happen
too.
to have an egg that I have to sell for you. It goes in any given
don't
orifice.
get sued. Don't get sued.
I think.
Sell me this egg.
It doesn't. There's not one orifice that it goes. That's what's special about
It's up to
this
you.
egg. It's
Yeah.
your choice.
It's your choice.
It's a self-empowerment egg.
3 out of 10 Reiki healers endorse this above all others.
And 9 out of 15 chiropractors. So it's a very powerful egg.
You know who doesn't use this
Good.
egg? Skeksis.
Those bastards. The Dark Crystal, The Age of Renaissance, is based on Henson's 1982 feature, The Dark Crystal, as we've been discussing, which is a brilliant film, which I adore. The series tells a new epic story set many years before the events of the movie and realized using classic puppetry with cutting-edge visual effects. So the world of Thra is dying. I don't know if I mispronounced that. At the heart is the Crystal of Truth, a source of untold power, but it is damaged, corrupted by the evil Skeksis, and sickness spreads across the land. When 3 Gelflings uncover the horrific truth behind the power of the Skeksis, the adventure unfolds, and the fires of rebellion are lit. An epic battle ensues. The voice cast includes Taron Egerton, Anya Taylor-Joy, and Natalie Emmanuel from Game of Thrones, who have been the Gelfling heroes Ryan, Brea, and Deet. Other actors include Helena Bonham Carter, Toby Jones, Alicia Vikander, Simon Pegg, Andy Samberg, and more.
It's a ridiculous
here's what-
voice cast.
Like the Skeksis didn't. Here's what bums me out about this: is that as I was just referring to before the egg, the Skeksis didn't create the evil. They were created by the break. When this crystal broke, they were
true.
created. It split. The one entity split in two, and
That's
that's
what you think.
Retcon.
Well, that is the
Yeah.
heroic.
Yeah.
That is
Better
the
not.
horrific truth behind the
Challenge
power of the
everything
Skeksis.
you know about the Dark Crystal.
The Skeksis.
This isn't your daddy's Dark Crystal.
Yeah,
Is
you
that what
think
you're
you
telling
know
me?
Yeah.
the Age of Resistance? You have no idea.
This is the even
That's
darker
gonna bum
crystal.
me out because that is the whole crux and simple beauty of that story. God damn it!
To the
Don't-
wikis.
Don't you ruin it?
Is there a Skeksis wiki?
There's
I
definitely a
promise
Dark
you there's
Crystal
Dark
wiki.
Crystal wiki.
Hop
Yeah.
on there, Roth. Let's get it going.
A Dark
think I'm
Christie?
not?
Yeah.
Dark Crystal wiki.
Gelfing 124. Gelfing girl.
Wow.
5, 6, 7.
Don't dox yourself.
It is the only thing I've ever wanted. So my partner does practical effects, as I might have mentioned, and that is the only thing I've ever wanted him to do is dress me up as a Gelfing, and it still hasn't happened, honey. Are you excited about this movie?
I mean, I guess the answer would be no. But however, I was very much an admirer of as I said, the craft behind the original films. So I'll give it a shot. Maybe if nothing else, it'll be a pretty watch, a nice visual journey. I'll be bummed if they do a lot of CG and stuff. Like if it's like two puppets and all computer graphics. Like that kind of takes the magic out of it for me a little bit.
Thinking characters are all puppetry.
I would hope so.
Fingers crossed. Because in the teaser they released last year, there was a Skeksis, and that was also a puppet. So
That's good.
Fingers crossed. But yeah, I sent a picture of all the new Gelflings to my wife this morning, and she responded with "Squee" in all capital letters. So we will be watching this movie.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, did you squeak?
Well, you saw my live trailer reaction as the images came up, where I went, ew. And then when I was informed that was not CGI, that was real, I went, oh. So, yeah, I appreciate the craft of the first one. And look at that. I mean, if that's real, that's awesome. That looks like Natalie Emmanuel. They really captured it. That's, I assume, Deet. And I can't wait to learn more about Deet.
All right.
Deet.
We did it.
We did it.
I've been especially off my game today.
This is
I
a
wanna
really, really
apologize.
weird episode, guys. I'm not going to lie to you.
I want to live in it and own it.
But
Yeah,
you know
this
what's
is good.
strange is that somehow, as you guys are getting more off topic, the audience numbers actually going up. So maybe
People are like texting their friends like, "You've got to see this." These people are going out of their minds
Falling
on
apart
the
in
air.
the
Last SJU, quick.
The scavenger hunt to find the pre-tape that we do later today is going to be super fun. Just
yeah.
to see this madness
Are we
continue.
doing one today? I thought it was tomorrow.
I
don't-
assume so.
I assume that we're doing 4 a day, every day, from now until the end of time.
Yep.
You guys
you're
just
not
have-
wrong. Yeah.
You just had to identify which ones were drunken and which ones were. No, I think pretty much that.
Which
goes
one of
for
us has the jade egg? Is the real guessing.
Who's hiding the egg on any given SJU? Like in the movie The Mule. Different kind of mule.
Yeah.
Not that kind of mule.
Oh, okay. Thank you for bringing us back to the mule, Dan.
Oh,
so
oh
before
God.
we close out, we do want to warn you that there are some mule spoilers ahead.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to be spoiled for the mule,
Spoiler alert!
do know that we will have Charting with Dan later today. Commentaries tomorrow. We have an aquatic movie fight with Joe Starr, Julia Prescott, and Mike Carlson.
Aquaman.
It's for Aquaman, I know. It's just
All look, it's all water sports this Thursday on Movie Fights.
you got to
If
tune
you
in
thought
for
this
that.
was crazy.
Dan, tell us about the mule.
The Mule. No, I saw The Mule this weekend, and it was just like, I was really torn because like part of it was like a good story, and then but like every 5 minutes it was like Clint Eastwood didn't. They were just like, you can do whatever you want every 5 minutes of the movie, and that's how they got him to sign. And he directed it because like part of it is this sort of compelling story about this guy who needs money, and he's a drug mule, and he's a 90-year-old dude, and he's an old school like guy in an old pickup truck driving it, and like that's kind of fun and compelling. But then like in the first 10 minutes, Clint Eastwood literally just says like, the internet ruins everything. And then there's like a scene where he's like talking to a guy who's like 40 or something, and he's just like, what is it with this generation on your phones all the time? Maybe if you put them down, you'd live in the real world. And it's like, what? Like he gets to like growls and grumble about technology. He's like racist. But like they're all punchlines. Like he drops words that would be career enders for anyone in Hollywood, on or off screen, and it's like he called. I can't even say what he said, but he gets to, like, non-ironically. That I don't get it. He has 2 different 3-ways. He's like 90 years old, but he's like, it's like dropped into the middle of this movie.
Wait,
that,
is it
like,
2 women?
Yes.
Oh.
That like he's just like
No, 2
Disappointed.
women multiple times.
No, I know, but I was hoping it would be a man and a woman.
no,
Yeah, open
no,
your mind about
no.
what a
Got
three-way
it,
can
got
be,
it.
man.
It's like this just cuts to 2 different scenes of him like entertaining 2 young ladies parties in different rooms across the country, just
Wait,
like.
this guy that's so hard up for cash and is also Clint
But he's super
Eastwood?
charming. That's the other thing. He's super charming.
yeah.
He's like the most charming guy in the
That's
world.
why, because
Naturally.
Everybody loves racist
Yeah,
Chris.
naturally.
So he's a casually racist but completely consequence-free, super charming guy who gets to grumble about technology and have multiple three-ways. And then, like, directorially, because he directed the movie too, there's like a party
Clearly.
scene, and like a minute of the party scene is just butts. It's just like camera zooms
Fast
into
and
a
the Furious
butt,
style.
camera pans down to a butt. They're all, because it's like everyone's dancing and it's just like ladies' butts for like a
level.
minute, and it's like camera, like start with the top and then tilt down to a butt, and it's like obviously like Clint Eastwood is just a dirty old man. He's like, all right, get your butt up in that camera right now. We're gonna do 18 of these. It's just like that movie should have just been called Warner Brothers Indulges Clint Eastwood. Is
It
what that movie
is.
should have been called. And it's like, but I don't get like why. We had a 20-minute conversation about blueberries when Peter Rabbit came out because people had a trouble that like they shot a blueberry in a guy's mouth and everyone lost their minds. And it's like, why is nobody talking about like it's like committing. He didn't just commit a crime in broad daylight. It's like on screen, and like he will drop these like racial slurs in the middle of the. I was in an audience in L.A. in liberal bastion L.A. and the audience is like, "Oh, Clint." I'm like, nobody, no, not oh, Clint. Nobody gets that kind of leeway. Nobody. And it's like Clint Eastwood does it, and nobody seems to care. It's so weird. It's like Clint Eastwood's like, "I'll do your movie, but I've got 15 demands," and they're like, "We don't even need to hear them." Yes, you can do it, and it's so weird. It's like the weirdest movie I've ever seen.
Do you think so? So Clint Eastwood, first of all, never does more than one take, except I imagine for Up Butt, which took about 25 takes each.
It felt like he probably did like 8 or 9 takes.
Do you think the reason that no one's talking about it is because the people that are seeing it aren't the people that would be concerned?
But like I
Or-
said,
No, I just
I
think
was
people,
in Los
it's
Angeles.
people get sadly more mad about hypocrisy than they do about actual racism and stuff like that. Clint Eastwood has been telling us what he thinks and feels since at least Gran Torino, if not far
Right.
before.
I
then.
guess it's like
it's not a surprise.
It's
like,
expected
you know
of
what you're
him?
getting
Yeah.
into.
I guess people were relieved that he wasn't completely sincere or that he was just being endearing about it. Like, he doesn't know the difference. Like, no, he died. Like, that, it was just so weird. Like, and not so much, it's just like the fact that, like, nobody. Shouldn't this have been a thing?
It feels like it would have been. I think, like, we talked about this earlier. He's kind of Hollywood's Archie Bunker, right? And people are like, "That's Archie," and he's gonna.
That's our Clint.
That's him, and then he's gonna be dead soon.
And even
That's
like
true, yeah.
even Gran
I
Torino,
say that with love.
even
And-
Gran Torino was like sort of like racism, like in the service of kind of learning some kind of a lesson about accepting other people. Like, this is just like, oh, Clint, he's racist. Isn't that hilarious?
Yeah, it's
like,
really, it's
not
actually
really.
crazy. I haven't seen the movie, but even from what you're describing, it's crazy to me that there isn't more of an uproar. Like, I mean, right?
I don't know.
I mean,
Clint
it
Eastwood,
feels like there's
Clint
an uproar
Eastwood
about
quasi-racist
Aquaman right
is
now.
not a headline that gets attention or it's not news.
But there's a scene in the movie where he pulls over to help a couple change their tire, and of course, first of all, he's like, "Oh, you got a flat tire?" And there's a guy with a cell phone. He's like, "Yeah, I got a flat tire. I'm trying to call some help, but I don't have any bars." And he's like, "Didn't your daddy ever tell you how to teach a flat tire?" Like, "I'm all right. Get the jack. I'll change it for you." Like, so of course he has to, like, this wimp who's addicted to technology can't change his own tire. But they are an African American couple, and he calls them, like, certainly not the worst word that you can call an African American couple.
right up there.
But it's certainly an outdated term. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we don't, that's not, like, we prefer, you know, like black or African American, and like, or just people." And it's like, that's true, that's a great point. And Clint Eastwood's just like, "Oh yeah, huh? What do you think? What do you know about that?" And that's the end of the scene. How did? I don't get it. I don't understand it.
Billy, have you seen people talking about this?
I mean, No, but also I feel like Dan is inadvertently selling tickets in this chat
Yeah.
right now to this movie.
Well, does it pay off in the third act where he says, "Get away from me, you African American"?
He just gets to call people whatever he wants, and it's black people, it's Mexican people, it's gay people. He just gets to call them whatever he wants in this movie, and there's no arc about like. It's just like, it's okay if you're old. It's like, isn't that the whole problem right now? Like, it's not. It's like, if it was in service of something, if he's like, came around in some type of way, shape, or form, but it's just like, this old man has really outdated ways, but the stuff that's wrong with him is forgivable because he's old, and the stuff that he really did that's wrong is no big deal because everybody forgives him. It's like, no, that's
What does he have to say about chairs? Pro, con?
He doesn't have a lot to say about chairs, surprisingly. Although he does, yeah. I thought that there would be a stronger chair, given everything else they apparently allowed him to do in this movie. I thought there would be a stronger
chair for 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly, a stronger take on chairs. But there's very little take on chairs. It's a weird movie that I'm really surprised. It was the number 2 movie of the weekend, I think.
I'm intrigued.
And nobody's saying
I'm not
anything.
gonna lie, so am I.
A lot
It
of grandpas
sounds
out there.
insane.
Yeah, a lot of grandpas. I don't think he needs to make another movie. I think if Clint Eastwood wanted to make a boatload of money, he would just do a series where he reads Airport Dad books. He just sits in a chair and reads them to camera.
Yeah.
And that would make so much money.
He
Just
should be
Clint
the
Eastwood reading
narrator.
Jack Reacher.
Yeah, he should do like a Once Upon a Deadpool thing for the Jack Reacher movies. where
Yes!
It's just him,
Oh, man, that would-
reading the paperback to a middle-aged man going to sleep. I set off the sprinkler system with my lighter and tore apart her blouse.
Wait, is there kissy stuff?
Yeah. It's not that I think everyone should be outraged. I'm just surprised more people aren't.
Sure.
If I'm being quite honest, because it is a weird ass movie.
Wait, what's the point of the threesomes?
Sixums, I believe.
Yeah, you're right.
Uh,
Technically.
To show that he's charming.
He's
They
still got
literally
it.
just happen.
He still got it. Damn it.
Thankfully, mostly off screen. But there's no question about what's going on.
Maybe is it just like there can be no question about his manhood?
Maybe, I guess one of them perhaps they might have been hired, but the other one is just straight up like I'm in a motel and these really 2 young charming girls are just beguiled by me,
Sure.
and I'm just gonna have
Because
a
he knows
three-way.
how to change flat tire.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Nothing says drop trowel like an old man changing your tire, right? And
100%.
Yep.
Joe, you would agree.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just really weird. It's a really weird movie. It's a really weird movie with a really weird message or lack of one. But inside of that,
I don't
a
wanna
somewhat
have
okay
to-
story.
Yeah. If you guys could do me a favor, I don't want to have to see this movie. So what I would ask is if you could just do a super cut of everything other than this apparently okay story, that I would like to see.
Just the weird stuff.
Just the weird stuff.
The weird cut
Yeah,
of the
the
mule.
mule, just the weird stuff. Thank you, Internet.
Oh,
I know you will provide because unlike Clint Eastwood, I love you. Thank you for joining us today, Dan. Mule
Yeah.
Talk has been fun.
Mule talk.
Yep.
Muling
This
around
week
with
and
Dan
every
Murrell.
week till I figure this damn thing out.
The Mueller investigation with Dan.
Yes, thank you. Day one of
Right.
the Mueller
Just
investigation.
end there. That's it.
Bye, guys.
We gotta
See you
go out
tomorrow,
on that.
maybe. See you forever.
Oh, God.